Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to another episode of Glass Half Full, a podcast and a safe platform where we talk with a variety of teachers, entrepreneurs, spiritualists, uplifters, givers, shakers, and serenaders. Everyone has a lesson to learn and a lesson to share. Let's use our life experiences to enrich someone's heart, mind, spirit, and soul. Through sharing our experiences, we can be a learning inspiration for one another. I'm your host, Chris Levens. Let's welcome today's guest. Today's guest is Alan Paul. Alan Paul is a musician, creative coach, author, and podcaster. He strives to help creatives in all walks of life to harness the essential tools to impact the world while living in harmony, abundance, and in line with timeless principles. He's built multiple brands and creative platforms, written 4 books and resources, and runs a successful faith-centered creative platform, God and Gigs, while coaching others to do the same with their gifts. Let's welcome Alan Paul. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning,
Chris. Thank you so much. Well, I know, like I needed that kind of energy in the morning, so I appreciate that. I love the introduction.
I hope I could give it to you. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to Glass Half Full. We're so happy to have you today. Thank you for taking some time out to be a guest here on Glass Half Full.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, the pleasure is ours. Can you tell everyone where you are in the world and what time it is?
Okay, it is currently, last I checked, like 9 a.m. Eastern time. I am in South Florida. Most people would say Fort Lauderdale, Miami. There's a million different little areas, but if I say Miami, people know where that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's where I've been for the last 20-ish years. I pretty much grew up in Florida.
Okay, wait. Don't get too deep in. We gonna get to that. We just want to know where you were. It's all good. Where you were and what time it was. But let's jump right on in. I like to ask all my guests this first question. I believe that our lives are in spiritual design. Can you share your life layout or blueprint with everyone? This is how you grew up, where, your family lifestyle.
Oh, well, that's a great question. And I love the way you laid it out as spiritual design. So
thank you.
As you just mentioned, as I start to jump into, my life has been kind of like this transition period from growing up with music in North Florida. Pensacola is where I grew up, with my mom being my music teacher, my original teacher, I guess you could say, around music. So my father, a dentist, that also, we've always been around the South area of the United States. So that's kind of like my upbringing was in the South, just small town kind of feel, brother and sister. And so that was our family unit. And I'm grateful for that kind of just solid foundation for my family, and seeing my dad work hard, build his first dental practice, and
nice.
Just being an entrepreneur. So all that really kind of instilled something in me. And then, as I mentioned, music was kind of like the core of all of that. So being a pianist, growing up, playing in my church, and just really enjoying that part of life and expressing myself. So that kind of continued throughout. From that point, being high school, college, getting serious about it, and then coming down here to Miami and pursuing my degree in music education, jazz emphasis, learning jazz and becoming like really enamored of that genre, and then kind of exploded into everything. So yeah, that is, I hope that kind of answers the question, where like that foundation of family and music kind of branched into everything else I'm doing.
Nice. Now lead us up to the present day. What is it that you are currently involved in or currently doing?
Okay, so currently I am, as I tell a lot of people, I'm a part-time everything. um,
Hey, we like
yeah,
part
so
time. Hey,
yeah. I've heard somebody call it parallel careers. So I have parallel careers,
nice.
right? So I'm a musician. I work in my church as a staff musician. So that is the first pillar, the faith part, where I'm still working the ministry as a full-time musician, but I'm also work on the podcast for that particular ministry. So that's podcasting. I'm
Mhm.
also, as you mentioned, a podcaster and author. So that's the second tier. We're now teaching and coaching through God and Gigs and Paul Creative Services. It's become a major part of my life. And then the third part is being a professional musician outside of the church. So I still
Okay.
gig, I still perform, record with my friends out here in South Florida, and sometimes I travel a little bit, but I'm very much a homebody. So most of my music happens in South Florida. So so that's the professional. Those three tiers, those church, ministry, and then the teaching and coaching, and the performing. That's kind of like that's where I make my bread and butter.
Wow. So you're doing a lot. So you're seem like you're always busy.
That's funny you said that. Like I literally got from hanging out with some friends, some musician friends last night,
Hmm.
going to their performance, and that was their first comment was, "What are you doing here? Should you be working? You're always busy." And I was like, "Is that's not what you know? How some people put off on I don't know whether Instagram, whatever they put off that kind of not false, but I guess they kind of brag about being
Hmm.
busy. I've never been that kind of person. I hate that. Oh, I'm so busy. My calendar's so full. But then I guess if you ask, and you ask my wife, yes, my calendar is full,
Mm.
but it's a good thing. I'm very grateful that I have avenues and opportunities, right? Some people
No.
have avenues but no opportunities, and some people have opportunities but no avenue to actually take position in it. So I'm grateful for both.
No, I know that's right. Definitely to have both. Nothing wrong with that. Well, with all that you do, how do you maintain good spiritual health and growth? What do you do for yourself? Is there a daily
Uh,
regiment? Is there something that is, yeah, tell us what you do.
That's a great question. And that's exactly where I think I've both continued to work on this and struggle with, and also have found kind of like some better balance.
Hmm.
Clearly the why and the what have to kind of connect, right? So the why I do what I do has to be for in the forefront all the time. So that means I got to wake up, I got to set some routines, I've got to journal, I've got to pray.
Hmm.
Finally started working out a little more. That's been one of the things I had not put in the routine of keeping my balance and keeping my why and my engine running well, as far as being able to take on these things if I don't
True.
take care of the house
Yeah, we
that
only get
I'm
one. You're
building.
right. I
Yeah,
want those
so
120 years. That's what I'm trying to get the 120
hey,
years.
however many he gives, I'm gonna try to use them to the fullest. But yeah, that's been the key, is really learning to lean into routines that are healthy, and that actually, journaling has become a huge part of my routine over the last 5-10 years or so.
Hmm.
So being honest with where I am, being connected to my faith community, talking with them, calling them, all these things have really helped, to keep me centered when life is flying at 100 miles a minute. So I think those are key things that, again, I can't say I do them perfectly. I fall off the wagon plenty of times, but I have to come back to those central things of prayer, of journaling, being honest, and community, having my friends and my wife and time with them. As much as sometimes it kind of, feels like I'm forcing myself to do those things, that people look at me like, okay, you don't really want to be here. Like, yes, I do. I do. I know I need this. I
They
know I need
calling you
quiet
out. They
time.
calling you out.
Yeah, right. They know I'm not good at like sitting still, but I need it. So
Hmm.
that's been really key to me keeping that focus and balance in terms of everything else that's going on.
Well, thank you. And thank you for your honesty about that. Sometimes we can, get so busy with things that, things slap off or slip off, so it's nice to have people around you as well to help keep you where you need to be. Who's around you that helps keep you motivated?
Oh, this is one of my favorite like parts of my life. The people around me, the circle,
Hmm.
are really between my church and my musical creative community.
Are they
Like
are they the same people or are they separate people?
I would say it's very interesting. It's hard to really quantify that anymore.
Okay.
Sometimes they overlap, sometimes they don't.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
after 10, 20 years, it feels like the same family. You know, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
They
get
may
it.
not know each other all the time, but they are all of the
Always.
same. I've heard somebody describe it where different tribes, same mantra, right? Like
Yes,
they're
yes.
different tribes, but they literally, like, if they met each other, they would immediately like connect. So yeah, there's slightly different people, but definitely, like, in my head, it's all one community because they all share the same kind of values when it comes to, why we stay connected, why we've had 10, 20-year relationships. So yeah, that's a great, those are the people that, like I said, just last night, hanging out with them, just having a birthday party with their 14-year-old, and just
Oh,
knowing that
nice.
we could just be ourselves.
Yes.
We weren't
Not
musicians. We
being
weren't,
not being judged. You're free to
yeah,
be,
just be
that,
you.
yes, that safe space and enjoy. Nice. Yeah, no, we need that. We definitely need that. And we hope that everybody has that or some type of place or people that they can go to have that. Definitely. I love it. Let me ask you, where did you get the idea to write the book? And I say
Okay.
books. Let me put the S on that.
No, I figured which one you were talking about, because there is, like, I always joke where, one is a book and the other is like a book light, I guess.
Okay. A resource.
Where right, a resource. I always feel guilty. Like, I don't know how long a book has to be, is there a
And does
page
it really
limit? I don't know.
matter? Does it
No,
matter?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think
It's this it's
what matters
something people can get help, you can share it. So that's
it,
everything.
exactly. It's what's inside, right? It's
Yes.
what's inside that counts. But the first one, the one that kind of started this all, was God and Gigs, succeed as a musician without sacrificing your faith. And so the idea of that is interesting because it does come. I have to give a little bit of background
Yeah, go ahead on in.
because
This
it
is your
does
time,
come.
Alan. This is your time.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, don't get me started. Right, the train starts running. It's hard for me to stop. So
Choo
the
choo. Let's
the
go.
the
Take it.
the part about writing this book is it really does come from a place where I was at one of those transition moments. Because I kind of mentioned that I transitioned from North Florida to come down to South Florida, getting my degree, then getting married to my wife, almost 27 years now, Leah Paul.
Wow, congratulations.
So all of that. So thank you. So all of that has to kind of like come into the calculation, because at this point, coming out of college and getting into both performance, but then realizing you really can't make a full-time living just jumping around playing gigs unless you know what you're doing, which is
Right.
what I do now. But, at the time I had no idea how to do it. So I get into music teaching, teaching elementary school. And at the same time, I'm also, as I just mentioned, the two concurrent careers playing at my church. So now one of these, both of them are loves, but one of these was taking over the other. So I started to realize that I had, I love teaching. I don't love writing lesson plans. I don't love the testing. So I kind of realized that God was kind of like pushing me. It was like, okay, the teaching thing is not going to last a long time. So I decided to walk away from full-time elementary school teaching. And for a second became a homeschool dad. That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother book that I have to write later. But then went into ministry full-time. So this is where I have to come to the book part. When I got to full-time ministry, I thought, okay, now this is the place I'm going to spend all my life, because this is a calling. It's fulfilling. It's doing what I do faith, and I'm in music. But that also, after a few years, God kind of like, okay, well, you're going to start moving in another direction. I'm like, wait, no. This doesn't make any sense. Like, I already left one fulfilling profession. Now I'm in another fulfilling profession. This should be it. And the internal sense was, no, it's not. So suffice it to say, I stepped away a second time from a full-time position, this time from full-time ministry. And this time I was kind of like waiting in no man's land.
Now,
So
when you say in
where
ministry, are you in the music ministry? Are you?
Yes, this was
okay.
Yeah, this was music. I was a full-time. Yes, I was.
You're running the music part. Okay.
Yes, doing all the things. Right.
Just so people know, I get it. I grew up in church, but some people don't know what you're. So I just wanted to make it plain.
I'm so glad you did that. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. Playing in church, full time in terms of, running a choir Sunday mornings.
Now, are you guys, were you a mega
rehearsals and all that
church?
stuff.
Were you like on TV and stuff? Was it that type
Not
of church?
much, no. No, not that, but
Okay.
we were basically, that was my job, was to try to expand it, right? So
Okay.
it was a lot of social. That was just social media was just coming out, right? So
Wow.
I was in charge of trying to become like all things, right? Tech person, music person,
Oh
write
my
the music,
gosh.
help get. So yes, it was a lot. Like you think my schedule's busy now.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm glad you paused me there to make sure I explained that. Yeah, because that's where the book came from.
Okay.
Like, and that's why I wanted to set that up. Because if you don't know that world, you wouldn't understand why I thought this book was so important.
Yes.
So so that's where I came from, like this area of church musicians. And so I decided to step away, really, out of a, again, very, very kind of traumatic kind of year of just, okay, it's time to leave. And this is where I found myself, Chris, where the book idea actually came. I'm sitting in a blues club because I finally get the inkling, well, I guess I should be performing music again, because I had stopped playing any type of non-religious music.
Oh, wow.
For a time.
Okay.
I said,
I get it.
Well,
I get it, though. I get it.
See where this comes from? Yes, this is why I had to set the whole thing up. So I really stopped playing the music I had trained for, that I had played. I had no time. So everything was from this very Christian gospel, religious music thing in my head, in my performing, in my playing. And then I find myself outside of this world. And it's like, well, what do I do now? So I'm playing in this $50 quiet, not quiet, it was loud, but very small blues club. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with my life? And so that's where, after a couple of days of thinking about it, I sat down and said, wait a minute. Some of these musicians that are coming in here are also same guys that play in church. And then I did some research. I'm like, oh my gosh, most of the people playing in these secular environments are people like me that played in church places. So,
and they're not burning up. They're not catching on fire.
Exactly. See, you know where I'm going with this. So that's when I said, you know what? Maybe I should ask them how they do it, and how they don't feel this guilt, and how they continue to manage keeping their Christian, values while playing all over the place. And then, like you said, not walking into church and people thinking that they're like, they
backsliding and all that. Yeah.
Right. So I ended up interviewing about, I got to interview some guy, one of the gentlemen from Take Six, another guitarist that plays with Julio Iglesias.
Wow.
One of the musicians that worked with Bowtie Tribute, Anthony Hamilton. I'm naming a lot of names because these are guys that are playing all over the spectrum, right? All genres.
Yes.
I interviewed them. I wrote it down. I wrote down 7 principles that I gathered from them and from my own explorations, and it became God and Gigs, the book. That launched, again, 7 years later.
Wow.
50 years later. 7 years later, it became the podcast. It became literally like the theme of how I interact with the world, telling other people, not just in music now, but it started with music. That's why I had to give you the whole story of the music side. So it started with music, and now it's everywhere. How do you balance the Christian or faith-focused values that you have with a world where sometimes they don't honor those values, and you have to be who you are and who you say you are and still create excellent work and make a living doing it? That's where everything landed. So yes, the book launched all that from my trauma-filled transition.
Wow. What a testimony.
Christian,
yeah. That's wow. Wow. And so can you tell us one of those principles, one or two of those principles that you have changed, that changed your thinking or your belief or understanding?
Absolutely. One of the first ones I would say, so I'll give you the whole acrostic, and then I'll break down just a couple of them.
Okay, because I didn't want to be greedy for people that go to the book. They can just go and they can just go and get it.
Yeah, just go get it. But it spells out the word service. So the first one is stay connected to God and your values. The third, then it's establish your priorities for E. R, respect the business. V, visualize your goals. I, invest in your gift. Then C is challenge yourself to grow. And then E is evangelize through your gift. So I'll have to go back to the beginning, because the first one, S, stay connected, is not just to God, which obviously is kind of like God and gigs. That obviously is my important one. But it also in that one says stay connected to your family. And Chris, I can tell you, for a time, my creativity almost broke up my family. My desire to be connected to, oh, I'm going to be successful, or I'm going to do, it doesn't matter whether it's religious or not. Whatever we do when our work becomes our only purpose, we lose something. And so I had to reconnect with my wife or with my kids. Again, like I mentioned, becoming a homeschooler for a time, becoming a stay-at-home dad for a time, making sure that our family was connected with this grand purpose I had was really super important. So that one is 100%. I just had an interview with on my podcast with Alicia Keys, supporting vocalists and background singers. They're now her vocal.
Yes, I just saw on your Instagram,
Yeah,
Ryan Whitney. They are awesome.
Amazing, but I mentioned them.
I didn't get a chance to watch the show yet, but I did.
No,
I just saw
I appreciate
it.
You even bring. That makes my heart good. Just know that you saw it. It's amazing. So thank you so much for even supporting just by checking it out.
Yeah.
But I bring them up because that's the kind of people I want to talk to now. Like people who integrate this amazing life that they get to live, but the first priority is their marriage. They're helping people in that world where it's super competitive. And people are like, every single day you got to be hustle, right? You got to stay on top of it. You got to be on Instagram. You got to produce the music, or you got to produce the video, or whatever. Like this is a super saturated world where if we feel like we got to be on 100% of the time. And I just like to remind people that no, like those people are not going to be around. Those followers aren't going to be at your funeral. Like they're not.
That's right.
So the family is the core of what I do, and those relationships that I've built is what I'm most proud of. I'm most proud of the fact that I have 3 kids that still pretty much like their dad. and my wife has decided to hang around for, over, 25.
Well, when you put a 2 on the front, it's like, okay, like, yeah. No marriage is perfect, and every marriage will go through its ups and downs. But, when you make those vows, you try to feel like you're going to try to at least live up to them. So good on you guys.
Yeah.
How old are your children?
Thank you. My kids are all, like I always tell people, I started early and I finished early. So my oldest is in his 30s and my youngest is 25. I can't keep track.
They ain't no little babe. They ain't no little kids. I thought you was like gonna be like
that's what I'm saying.
16 or 15 or something like that. Okay.
No, we at the same stage that I was talking about. Like I already was our. That's why I'm telling them, very honest and transparently about my transitions and my why my 4 words. I know we'll get to that later. But that's why I focus on the grace that I shouldn't be here. Like I became a father at 17. I was a married man with kids by 23, right? Wow. So that's why I'm saying like none of this really makes sense. I can't go to anybody as a guru like, yeah, do it the way I did it. Like, no, don't do it the way I did it. Like, do not follow my example. So that's why I'm so big on that, man, because by all intents and purposes, I should not be in the place where I am, except I was able to lean back on some principles and some people that helped me keep this thing together, right? So that's why it's so important to, that I share it now. Like, hey, like this, when you're trying to, and again, I know I'm talking mostly to creators, but this podcast is going to everybody.
Oh, yes,
whatever it is. Whatever you're doing, like, do not lose sight of that. It's worth it to stick it out. It's worth it in the long run. It doesn't feel good at the meantime when someone's arguing with you about how long you spent out or how you're going to pay the bills. And these things are like stressing you. But if you stick with the why, hey, at the end of it, I'm going to have either a relationship or a family or a business where people actually care about each other and have gone through it and stuck together. Like, to me, that's really the core of what, God and Gigs is eventually about. It's not just about the music or the creativity. It's about those relationships and being a person that can say, yes, I stuck with it because I stayed with the things that really mattered.
All right now. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Which leads me in to talk about the 4 words that you use to describe your story. Can you tell us the words and just tell us why you've chosen these words?
Yes, thank you for that segue. because I hope I don't get too passionate. Just feel like I'm like just ranting because this
Well,
is
no,
where
it's
you can
about
tell.
it's about you. You have this is your time. We want to know
Thank
who
you.
you are. Yeah, you can't. We want you to rant and rat. Like,
No,
y-
I want it to be with purpose, but yeah, but when I
yes,
say I get
yeah,
so
it is
excited.
purpose. No, it is purpose. You're fine. You're fine. Take your
Thank
time.
you. So the four words that I use, and again, as you can tell from these last few, paragraphs I just spoke with, is where my heart is. So it's
Mm,
husband, father, creative, and forgiven.
yes.
So again, because those four words all are certain roles that I have fulfilled, they're the roles that I realize that if I had to like put something on your tombstone, as they say, if I fulfill those four roles, then I can die a happy man, that I can say I've fulfilled my purpose for God putting me on this earth for however long I'm here.
Mm.
So the first one, as I mentioned, is husband. And I've mentioned my wife. Like she right now is probably, hearing me get excited on the other side of the studio. It's like, here he goes again. Because she is the best part of me that I didn't know I needed at the time.
Oh,
And
that's nice.
we don't know what, that's why I'm saying to anybody that's like struggling through a marriage relationship, whatever, like remember that what you see in that person, it may not be what they're going to be to you later.
Mm.
And that's what she is. I didn't know she was going to be the amazing manager, the amazing wife, the amazing visionary when I didn't see what was happening. And, she was the one that kind of wrote down when I was struggling to write this book, Chris.
Hmm.
She put in a Post-it note, just right above my piano, right above my computer
Mm.
keyboard. She's like, stop thinking, stop overthinking, just right.
Mm.
That's the kind of woman she is. She's the one that will push you when you don't want to be pushed, and will comfort you when you don't want to be comforted.
Mm.
So I want to
Nice.
give thanks to her. That's a key thing in my life, husband, and fulfilling my role to her. And father, again, I've also mentioned my three kids, and I I'm not the perfect dad. Thank God they're not the perfect kids either. So
I was
we're
about to say,
united
is there
there.
such thing as a perfect family besides what we see on the television show?
No, and then yeah, and then they turn the cameras off and we find out
I
what's really
know.
going on. All right. So yeah, that's the core of what I want to fulfill. One of my kids now is married. It's very exciting. So I get to see that
Oh,
generational
nice.
thing pass on. So yeah, now that I'm realized like, okay, this is why it's important to like spend those days with your kids and let them run all over the house and do all the discipline stuff. So
Yeah,
that's
because
the
they
key
won't be
word.
kids for very long.
The
This is
the
the
house is
thing.
quiet, man. I
Hmm.
heard somebody say, my pastor actually said this on another podcast that I helped produce. She said, like, her mother told her when they were loud and they were boisterous and she was on the phone. And she says, enjoy that noise. There'll be a lot more years without that noise than there will be with that noise.
So true.
And I'm learning that now, man. Yeah, but I still love the kids, even though they're adults and they still hang around dad. The third word, creative, again, we've kind of said it. I've put my world around, the way I interact with the world is through my creative gift, whether it be through my music,
Mm.
whether it be through my podcasting or my writing. This is the way that I relate to the world. It doesn't say that all I am is a creative, but it says this is how I connect with the world around me is
Hmm.
as a creative. So this is to anyone that doesn't call themselves a performing artist, a visual artist. You don't think you're an artist because you're not creative. Well, the way you interact with the world is still a creative process. And that's what really makes you is, you create the world that you live in every day, from the way that
Hmm.
you set up your books, your room, to the way that you sit up, the way that you create your workspace, to the way that you want your car, to the music you hear. Like
Hmm.
you're creating a space that you walk in and live in every day. So you create beauty, you create an amazing life for yourself every day, even if you don't necessarily put it on a canvas or put it in a song or write it in a poem. So that's how I relate to the world. So creative is the key word. And then the last one, forgiven, it's because of my faith, man, because I just mentioned all the things that I've done wrong in my life. Thank God I believe that they were covered, that my belief in Jesus really does remind me that there is more out there than everything I see right now. And so it gives me fuel for everything that I'm doing in the here and now. So yeah, those are the four words. I hope that kind of puts it in perspective, in a good way.
Yeah, no, you broke it down. You broke it down. We get it. And I like that you've chosen some words to represent, who you are and what you do. I think that's important for us to make some decisions about ourselves, where we lie. They say you have to choose a side. So,
Hmm.
but, just where people are understanding who they are, so nice, nice. I want to talk a little bit about the creatives. Why do you say that creatives and musicians need to treat their art like a business?
Another one of my, I like to rub my hands together, like, okay, let's dig into this. Why? I know these are like my love letters to people. Like I would write a love letter about, yes, this is my song to you.
I love
Why
it.
you should treat your So treating your art like a business is because I'll give you a story from another book that I love that I can't take credit for knowing this story, but it talks about Michelangelo. So
Okay.
Michelangelo, everybody has heard of the Sistine Chapel. Everybody's seen the Statue of David, right? One of the most famous artists in history. And so people mostly would think about Michelangelo as this incredibly gifted, but also tortured and starving artist, right?
Hmm.
He's just pushing away. He's got his back on the scaffold as he's putting the Sistine Chapel, and he's just being inspired, but he's in the rags or whatever. Like he's not dressed to the nines, right? We're not
Hmm.
imagining him being like a great businessman.
No.
But according to historians, Michelangelo would have been considered a millionaire. And I just want people to think of that and kind of put those things together. Michelangelo, millionaire. Well, this means amazingly inspired artist also was good at keeping his money together.
Mm.
And I think artists too many times have fallen into the starving artist mentality because we assume that if you are gifted and dedicated to your art, you should not be concerned or should not be good at your finances, right? That's what I'm trying to knock down the myth of, that simply being a dedicated and talented person is awesome. That's really what you got to be good at your craft, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, whether it be whatever that creative thing is. But if you're not stewarding and taking care of what you have, again, I hate to do this because I don't know when this podcast comes out, but that this interview with Ryan Whitney, like she broke it down better than I can. Like she said it. She's like, if you are in this business of art, then you should be taking care of what you earn and trying your best. Now, some people are doing this as a hobby. I get that, right?
True.
But even if all it is just making sure that it can pay for itself and not isn't a drain on your finances, you follow me?
Yes.
That you should do it, because any way that you can use the business of art and creativity to finance itself means what? You get to make more of it. Means what? You get to be less stressed. You paint better, you write better, you sing better when you don't have bills hanging on the edge of it. Right?
So true.
When everything is not dependent on every single thing being successful, you can say, okay, this is just a multiple income stream for me. And there's several ways we do that in our program, our Guided Gigs 360 coaching program. That's the community we set up, kind of like the next level, so people can kind of really dig into that.
Okay.
And we talk about the business of creativity. We talk about why email, why do you post social media, why are we doing all this stuff? It's because we don't want just people to see our stuff and clap. No, we want them to actually support us. And it's okay to ask for support. That's the second thing I'll go on real quick.
Yeah, please go ahead.
The other part of business, doing business as a artist, that people get nervous about is that, well, they don't support me. No one buys it, and we get into this whole thing that you feel like if people don't support it by, liking it on Facebook or whatever, that somehow people aren't supporting you. And what I try to do with people to help them with that is make them realize, as you mentioned in the intro, I've built several communities. I've got different brands. I've built different communities where we had jazz concerts, or during the pandemic, I did 30 house concerts, and we charged for those house concerts. A lot of musicians during the pandemic just went to going on live streams and asking for tips. I was like, no. And here's why, though. Here's why, Chris. Because guess what I realized? I literally did a survey on this with my music community. Again, it's not huge. I don't have a big fan base. I have, maybe 500 people on the email list, right? But I surveyed those 500 people, and they all said we would rather pay ticket prices. Why? Because we want the experience while we're locked up in our house to be as close as possible to what it used to be when we used to go out. And when we went out, we paid for tickets.
Yep.
So I gave them the opportunity to support me the way they were willing to. So to every artist out there, it's not, don't be ashamed to say, yes, I should charge, this is the price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people who really care about you don't need 1,000 million people. You just need the people that actually care about art, and they will support you if you ask them to.
So true. And it's about quality as well. If you're putting out 100%. Something good and they know that you're a good musician, people don't mind supporting for a good show or a good performance.
Exactly. But I think artists, sometimes we do get we get gun shy. We get nervous about, what if, they're going to think something of me. Like I said, they just expect me to give it away for free. No, once you find your people, stick with those people and they will support you. But you just got to do it, like you said, and do it well. And then take care of your finances and run it like a business. And it's okay that it's not comfortable for you at the beginning, but just like it's not easy to learn an instrument, it's the same thing. You also got to learn how to run a business. Yeah. But thank you for even asking that question, because I think that's super important for us. So we can we can encourage more people to get out there, just do it, and not necessarily let the finances be a detriment to them,
No, it's good. No, you're right about that for sure. So were you going to people's houses and playing personal concerts in their home?
Do you mean during the pandemic?
Yes.
No, this was all online.
Oh, okay. So you were giving a full concert. They wouldn't
let me in there now. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, did he mean he was in the house?
No,
okay.
I'll tell you real quick. We called it Keep the Music Playing.
Keep the music playing. I like it.
Mm-hmm. And again, this is literally how it started. I was about to play a festival, one of these big jazz festivals down here with another artist. And that was the weekend they shut everything down. Right. Okay. So literally that weekend, they shut the entire festival down. The world goes silent. Right. The week next, I was supposed to have a gig with this one blues artist I work with. And she and I just looked at each other. We're like, what we going to do now?
That ain't happening.
Exactly. So this is what I mean, where you just start it. Whatever you're thinking of doing, y'all, just start it.
Yep, just do it. Yep, I agree.
Mm-hmm. We jumped on it. I didn't know anything about webcams, Chris. I didn't know anything about, but we jumped in. I think I set up a PayPal link in 5 minutes, connected to my bank account. We emailed our people. We sent it. We said, hey, guys, we know the gig's canceled. Meet us here online. And that started that one. We did 2 concerts. The way we structured it is, though, this is where I want to kind of give people the sense of where the business part comes in. The first half of the concert, Chris, was free. We did 30 minutes, just like you walk into a club and there's no cover charge. Hey, just come and check it out. But then the second half was paid and it was exclusive. So we didn't share the link with anybody, just the people that wanted to come in. So we created a VIP room online.
Nice.
And from that is where we earned, over the pandemic, again, not a huge amount of money, but close to 10K of proceeds, right? So during the pandemic, I was an artist that was finding a way to make some extra income when no other live income was, live music income was happening.
That creativity, boy.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So that's what I want, my fellow musicians and creatives and artists to think. Think outside the box. You already got an outside the box thinker. Yes. Yeah. So use that and say, hey, you know what? Let's just launch it. So what's the worst? The worst that can happen is nothing. So what if it doesn't work? Try something else.
It's a win-win situation. So true.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Yeah. Nice. Can you give us some key strategies of building a brand or creative platform?
Thank you. Yeah. This is kind of where, again, my wheelhouse is not necessarily, because I always give this caveat. This is not about building millions of followers. I am not about that. I build micro communities. I want my people to be highly engaged in a brand. So I think the first key thing is being distinctive and knowing who you are and who you serve.
Okay.
I've learned, again, it's just easiest to keep it personal. I've learned that I serve an audience. I speak to best an audience that intimately already understands the value of art, the value of creativity, and want to be a deeper part of it, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't go out to the people who are just trying to go viral and they just want to see a quick TikTok or whatever. That's not my audience. And so am I missing out on a lot of people? Maybe, but I'm also not missing out on the wrong people. I'm missing out on
people that you're supposed to be dealing with.
Right. My audience is not there. So if you're one to build a brand, the first thing you got to be clear about is who am I and what makes me different from everybody else, and not just be a copycat. Well, this happened, this worked for this person, he went viral, he got no. What makes you different? What's your voice? What's your message
Mm-hmm.
that is clearly you? And be authentic to that, even if nobody likes it at the time. Because in 7 billion people, one of my mentors that I follow, my coaches, he says this all the time. In 7 billion people in the world, there's got to be 100 that are just like you. Like, it's just not possible that you're the only one that has a specific, like, so leaning into your strengths, leaning into who you are, but then being willing. Then the second part of this, I guess, will go. There's a great book, by the way, called Primal Branding.
Mm-hmm.
I would highly recommend that one because that helped me see a lot of this with clarity. But the second half of the building the brand thing that's worked for me is asking questions. Once you say, hey, I'm this kind of person, this is what I want to create, this is what I want to build. But then you got to go ask your audience, potential audience, but what do you think it is? Because a brand is not what you think it is. The brand is what the people think it is.
So true. So true.
Right?
Yes.
Like the reason why Coca-Cola is Coca-Cola and Pepsi is Pepsi is because we've decided through the years, Coca-Cola is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That we've decided that Pepsi has decided, okay, we're going to be cool not being Coca-Cola. And we pretty much said, okay, Pepsi, yeah, guess what? You're never going to be Coca-Cola, even if you wanted to be. You know?
Yeah,
so
it's
like,
a difference.
the people decide what the brand is. So you got to ask them, okay, what do you really want from this? So as I mentioned with Keep Music Playing, I went to my people. I asked, what do you really want to pay? What do you want this to look like? Do you want me to do requests for my God and Gigs? I go back to them. Say, do you want a podcast? What do you need in the next book? What are you guys looking for? And constantly asking the questions so you get the feedback. That part I think is also missing. I had one email, Chris, that was shocking to me. I sent out my regular emails that I asked a question. I said, well, what are you struggling with right now? What's going on in your life? What can I help you with? She wrote back and she said, this young lady wrote back and said, this is the first time I've gotten an email from a platform, right? Brand that actually cared what I think. I was like, wow. That is mind blowing to me. In this area of social media,
right.
You're telling me that, like people are looking, they're looking to be asked. They really want, like, and not like that kind of, comment this if you think today. This. Yeah. There's this kind of like superficial way of asking where people know you don't really care. And then there's the people that act where I actually will pick up the phone and I will call, one of my people that has followed me for like 5 years. And again, I'm talking from a micro community aspect, a micro brand, micro influencer, whatever you want to call it. I hate all these terms, but that's what we call it, right? So from a small influencer like me to say, hey, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call this person. I'm going to ask them, hey, what do you really think? Well, how's this really working? That does wonders, not just for them, but for me. Because now I get to hear straight from their mouth. Hey, I didn't really like that post. Hey, why are you doing this? And then they're telling me, like I said, if there's 100 or 1,000 people that think the same way they think, now I know what they really think.
So true.
So those two parts, I think, would do wonders for anyone trying to build something. Is first, know who you are, lean into who you are. Don't try to be a copycat. But then second, ask your audience and really do something when they tell you what to change, like I did. I changed my whole philosophy of their live streams when they said, hey, we want to do this. We want it to feel like a live concert. I changed everything, and I made it what they wanted. And that's what made it successful. So yeah, I would say that's the key elements of building your next, brand platform, whatever whatever God's put in your heart to do.
Yes, those are great. Those are great. And it's not anything crazy. It's simple. They're very, it's very plain. It's very simple. You make it simple to understand as well. So thank you for that. Because sometimes people are speaking over folks' head, and that's how they start to get that, they tune out because, they're using all these big words and saying all these things. And, it's just, and everybody's not at that place. So when people make it simple to understand, it's easy to grasp. You can get people to really connect in easily. So nice.
Thank you.
Yes.
I hope it's helpful.
Yeah. Look, I'm sure it will be. Definitely. Let me ask you, What kind of goals are you setting now to affect a better and more productive future?
That book, this is when I remember you saying this, and I was like, oh shoot, I hope it doesn't ask me this no, because I'll be honest. Again, it's always easy to be transparent, right? That's
Yes,
like,
please.
that's
This is how we grow when we are able to be transparent.
100%. I think one of the things, again, I've mentioned transitions several times in this interview because that's where I like really see, I see things in seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next thing in my season really is, okay, I've done, obviously, thank God I'm still a husband, but the father role, right?
Mm-hmm.
The father role is changing because now my kids are grown. So one
Mm-hmm.
role is no longer the same. So my goals for my kids is no longer raise them up, make sure that they make it to adulthood and are successful people. Now it's got to be the next generation, right? Eventually grandkids. So what do I have to as a legacy to give them? And that kind of leans into the creative, right? Okay, so that means the company I'm building needs to have something that they could then say is ours.
Yes.
So that means I got to build the brand, not because I want it to be successful for me, but I want to be successful for them.
Yes, you can leave
right?
something for them. Yes.
Yes. So the goals are shifting. And so as the goals are shifting, the methods are shifting. So now I got to shift the methods. Okay. Now it's more important for me to be clearer about my message. It's more important that I'm, living out what I really say I live. And then as far as building other people's lives, I need to be intentional about that, right? I have to say, okay, if my goal is now to really be more impactful in the second half of my life, what relationships do I really need to intentionally grow and be more a part of, and not just say, hey man, I'll call you. Nope. I got to call you and we got to talk some real business and we got to talk some real strategy and we got to get some real things happening because, it's more important now, right? Time is becoming more essential that we use this time wisely because the goalpost is there, but time is moving faster and time, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, like, you don't have as much time as you used to. So to me, I think that's the key thing. Like the goals have shifted where I do realize I need to be, again, kind of like, it's funny to say this, but I haven't been as motivated by finance over my life. Now that I realize, okay, I do want to leave something for my kids. Yeah. So now finance, where it wasn't a huge part, has become a bigger part. I want to be a better steward. I want to leave something better. So I do want the brand to grow.
Nice.
I do want my income to grow. But then, like I said, then the second half of that is relationships. I want these relationships to be something where I can really pour into people what I've learned over the last 25, 30 years. And whether that's through the podcast, whether that's through the books, whatever that is. Yes, now, and the music, by the way, which I'm still writing and composing. And
you're composing as well. Okay.
Yeah. So my friends have been pushing me in that place too, right? Because I've always been you can tell, like my goal in life has been to be a bridge for others, but not necessarily to be the face of a brand. That's not that doesn't motivate me.
Yeah, I get it.
But if music and putting out the music that I've been thinking about for years, and people are like, why haven't you written it? Why haven't you put it on the EP? Why haven't you? I was like, it's because that wasn't really that didn't like excite me. But now it's like, okay, maybe it's not about me. I need to get out of my own way and to get my way.
Well, somebody could be blessed by what it is that you're going to put out. And, so many artists are so quick to be like, oh, this is not good, and put things away. Everybody who's a singer, they've got so many books of lyrics, or if you're a composer, writer, so many tons of pieces of work that have never seen the light, because it's just feeling like, oh, like you say, we get in our own way and say, oh, you know what? I don't think this is good enough. And then it stops there. So I tell people, just try it. Let the world say they don't like it. Let get a real opinion about it. Like, don't take it for yourself. Like, it's true. We can step in our own way and just halt things out.
100%. Perfectionism has been something I've kind of, finally started to realize it still kind of creeps up on me. And so I think the goal is, again, like make sure there's another phrase that comes from that you can tell, like I was like mentioning these books. This one's from Jordan Rayner, is called Redeeming the Time. So he writes that there will always be unfinished symphonies. No matter when, however much life we have, there will be some things we won't finish. But I should not leave that as a reason not to keep writing the symphony, right? I need to write as much of the symphony as I can because I don't get to decide when it's over. So let me just finish with the pen in my hand, right? Let me finish working. That's why the retirement word is weird for most creatives. We can't imagine not doing this thing, right? So I don't see retirement and sitting back and getting on a beach, somewhere and kicking my feet up. That's not a goal for me. My goal is to be even more creative, even more productive in my second half than I was in my first. Because my first half was all about just making it happen. I got to make it happen.
And the learning part, right? Understanding and the learning and the foundation of the building, So now that there's all of that underneath, you can go ahead on and build on top. To the side and everything else. Yeah.
Exactly. The foundation is strong enough that I know I can put something on top of it. You're right. That'll stand. I love that analogy. So 100%. I think that's where, and again, as you can tell, these are general goals that I'm starting to flesh out, that I'm starting to see, this is what this really means. Oh, this is where I need to write this down on, make sure that I actually have a concrete like metric, right, to measure it, because what gets measured matures. So if I don't measure it, it never matures. So now it's not just like a pie in the sky. Now it's like, okay, by 55, 60, 75, whatever age, this is where I want to be, so I can visualize that, and then I can aim for it and hopefully reach it.
Yes, nice. Well, the fact that it's there and you've made it known, your request known, then it will be reachable. So we have not because we ask not. So a lot of people, they're not asking.
Yep.
That's
true. That's true. We don't ask of ourselves, right?
So
that, right?
It's a learning process, though. I mean, granted, everybody's not there, and I haven't always been. So it's something that we have to learn, and each person in their own life to. But we have to ask. We have to put it out there what we want. But a lot of people don't know what they want, so. It's that whole, twist about it.
Exactly. You know what somebody said? I just heard again. We could chat about this forever. I heard somebody say it yesterday. Again, one of my coaches on a podcast said he stopped saying, "What do I want?" And now he says, "What am I curious about?" Right? Nice. Reframe, perfect reframe. Right. Because now it's like, now you don't put that whole, I need to know exactly what I want. I need to know this $1 million or this many, whatever the metric is. And now it's just like, what am I curious about?
That's a whole different take, right?
Yeah. Wow. And now you're like, okay, again, it becomes like you said, you ask, you seek, you knock, but it's one of another biblical phrase that I really like want to remind people. When we talk about, people say, God gives you the desires of your heart. But if you turn it around, you could say it like this: God gives you the desires. And it's like, maybe the desires maybe I don't have to be in charge of the desires. You mean that I could just let him tell me what I want? And it's like, yes. That's a lot easier now.
Yeah, right.
Just tell me what I want. Oh, I want that. I'm going to get it, right? So,
well, this is it. A lot of people are doing things, they're outside of what they're supposed to be doing, but this is what they've asked for. And it's like, well, is that really what is meant for you? Is that what you're really supposed to be doing?
Exactly.
Or is that just something that you have decided that you're supposed to be doing? So we can, this is it.
That's the key. And again, and you know what? And here's a humility piece, Chris. I love this start. Here's the humility piece. Being okay with being wrong.
Yes.
Being okay with being wrong. I can very easily and humbly say I was wrong about a lot of those things. Now, that doesn't mean that God or that, life didn't use it. It doesn't mean that I'm regretting my decisions, right? There's a difference between regret and admitting you're wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I was wrong with a lot of my decisions. Now, I don't regret them because I know that without those little detours, I never would have made it to where I am now.
Exactly.
But I can also admit that was kind of a silly decision back at that time, right? So that's what I mean, being honest with who you are, where you are, how you got here will help you decide where you're going, and being honest about that, and being honest about, hey, I don't have all the answers. I don't know where all this is going to end up, but I'm willing to take chances, take risks, and be okay with the results. because I'm got, like I said, if you've got a faith foundation, you've got family and you've got friends around you to kind of help you course correct.
Yes.
You're going to be all right.
You sure
So
will.
go ahead. Like you said, take the chance, ask, and don't be so worried about, if this doesn't work out perfectly, because, it won't work out perfectly, but it will help to perfect you,
And it'll work out the way it's supposed to be worked out. Definitely. For sure. Nice. Ooh, that was a great explanation. You went in on it.
You brought out the best in me, sir. You bring out the best in me. I appreciate it.
I love that. I love that. Well, I like to ask all my guests this final question. Is your glass half empty or half full?
Okay, so it's definitely, as this podcast said, it's definitely half full. By the way, let me put this in now. If you're listening to this and you have not subscribed yet to Glass Half Full, what are you doing? You should have already hit that button a long time ago, because this is filling my glass. My glass is full now because I've talked on this podcast and shared with Chris. So you should have already subscribed by now. But my glass is half full, and it's really, again, it's this feeling of, I love the way you put it. You've really helped me now that the foundation was laid, so now I can build on top of it. Yes. So that part really fills my glass, which means, here's the cool thing about it, Chris. My glass will never be empty. It will always be at a certain level because of what I've already lived. If I appreciate it and I don't like just pour it out because I don't think it's good enough, I've already got a beginning. So all it can go is from half full to full. That's the only place it can go. Now, yes, there's going to be times where it's emptied by other stuff. I get it, right? The whole analogy is like, how much water can fit in your tank. So yeah, there are things that empty my tank. But if I believe, like I said, in my faith, that I'm always being filled with, what the Bible calls living water, it means it's never empty. It just means I got to go get refilled again. So for me, like I said, I love that analogy of being half full, because if I look at the space of half empty, the truth is, I'm just looking at capacity to grow.
Yeah.
The empty part, the empty part is literally what I have in front of me that's available. It's not empty, it's available. So anybody that's looking at your glass that's half empty, what you should be looking at, my glass has space for more.
Yes.
And that part is where I've seen my life, man. Thank God he gave that grace that he gave me, from being in high school, college, and not knowing what the heck I was doing, from being a music teacher to being a full-time minister, to being a podcaster, to now God in gigs. All these paths, my favorite scripture verse is, all the paths of the Lord are full of mercy and truth. And the mercy of all the paths, that's the key word, is the plural. Paths, wandering, meandering, going in circles, paths. All of them were full of mercy. So all the crazy turns that my life took led me to here. And that means there's even better paths available for me. So I just want to leave that word for anybody. Yeah, glasses half full means you also got half that's available for you to fill up.
Wow. That was great. I was going to ask you, did you have any final thoughts for the listeners? But you just gave us that bread. I mean, I wasn't ready for all that. I'm like, whoa.
Oh, no, I told you, man. You created the perfect scenario for people to pour. Look at that. Look at that analogy. Pour. Yes. We are pouring, sir.
Pouring. Yes. Yes. Wow. That was awesome. Very nicely put. Very well spoken. Very well spoken. Well, is there anything else that you feel that you need to? I don't want to ask you if there's.
No, I thank you for this opportunity. Number one, this has been a great conversation. I'm so glad that we made it happen. And I guess the final word on top of that, again, everything we've said and you and I have shared has been from a place of authenticity and transparency. So I would just kind of leave that as the final word. Be comfortable being you.
Yes. I
say there's 3 words that help my clients and my coaching, my people, my creative community to kind of like remind themselves of what to do every day. And it's every day, make somebody smile. Every day, look out, how can you serve someone? And every day, try to solve a problem, right? That's it. If you're smiling every day, you're making somebody laugh, you make somebody happy, you're trying to make them, and then every day you're looking to serve. How can I serve? How can I be helpful to somebody, help somebody? And then look around. There's a problem that you probably solve, even if the problem as a creative is just, hey, there needs to be more beautiful music. There needs to be better poetry out there. There needs to be someone that needs to hear this, this tough subject that has to be tackled, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to make a movie about it or something like that. Like solve a problem every day. You want to do those 3 things and then just be comfortable being you while you do it. Do it as you. Don't try to do it as somebody else, the way somebody else makes someone smile, serve, or solve. Then you're going to be all right. And you're going to really make an impact on the world. That's what I'm all about. So that'd be my final word to everybody. Just, be you, be comfortably, authentically you.
I love it. I love it. Nice. Can you tell everyone how they can reach you if they're interested to find out more about you and your podcast and what's going on with you?
Yes, for sure. They can find me on any podcast player. Since you're using a podcast player right now, you might as well stay on it, right? And just go to the God and Gigs show. If you're using a web browser, you go to godandgigs.com/podcast. That's the easiest way because as you can tell, I can talk a lot. And all of the links are already on those episodes. So anywhere you want to find me outside of God and Gigs when it comes to socials, or my music as well. You can look up Alan C. Paul or Alan Paul Music on pretty much any social, but the easiest way is just to go to the podcast, man. That's, to be honest with you. That's where I've found like my heart and my life kind of like centers around this microphone, which is crazy. I didn't see that coming. I thought it was going to be around a piano my whole life. That's where I say, but everything's about the keys, the piano. I didn't know it was going to be behind a podcast mic. So that's where they can find me. And then, like I said, all the other links to the shows and anything that regards creators that are building a better life from the inside out by applying timeless spiritual principles to temporary creative problems. That's what we do there at the God and Gig Show. And that's where they can also find out, what else I'm doing.
Nice. And that's spelled GODANDGIGS.com. So just
Correct.
to make sure that "and" is a real word and not like an "in" or anything like that. And then / podcast if you're going for that. But yes, all that. And it'll be also linked under the episode, so they'll be able to find it easily if people weren't writing anything down. They'll be able to find it.
I always say that. It's funny when I say that out loud. I'm like, no one writes this down anymore.
Yeah, it's true, right? Those days are done, but yeah, it's still nice to spell it out, just for it, just because. Well, we thank you so much for taking some time out to be a guest here on Glass Half Full. We have really enjoyed your nuggets of information and just the life story on how God has blessed you and brought you and your testimony to where you are today. We'll be looking for your name so we can see what's going to be happening to you in the future and how God is going to continue to use you and bless you. So thank you so much for your time today.
Chris, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. Have a great morning.
You too.
Thank you. And thank you to all our listeners listening in to another episode of Glass Half Full, a podcast and a safe platform for everyone to share their life experiences. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Levens. Please subscribe, follow, and rate this podcast on Apple Music and Spotify for more learning experiences. Until next time, know you are blessed. See ya.